to go ahead and drain our radiator. We're going to start by removing our radiator cap, and then we'll move underneath to drain the cooling system. You want to make sure that the engine is cool and is not hot, hasn't been running a while. You want to make sure that the radiator is nice and cool before opening this up. Otherwise, hot antifreeze can come out. Press down, rotate the cap, rotate this off, set the cap aside.
We're going to use our pry tool and get right behind the neck of our petcock, and we're just going to slowly pull that out.
We do have our drain pan underneath. Let the system drain out. I want to go ahead and remove this sensor, lift up on this little gray tab. Wiggle the sensor off. Remove our intake tube. We're going to remove our air box. Go ahead and grab your air box, lift straight up and out. Using the same 8mm socket to go ahead and loosen this hose clamp. And if your vehicle still has these rubber grommets, go ahead and slide these off. Ours are in pretty rough shape, but you may want to go ahead and replace these at the time of doing this job. I'm going to remove our upper shroud. There's a series of 10mm bolts. There's 2 here, there's a couple across the top and a couple on the other side. Let's go ahead and loosen those. Looks like our retainers are stuck, so we're just going to grab the backside with a pair of pliers. There was a couple spots where our shroud was actually cut or broken at one point. So there's a couple bolts less that we have to remove. Once they're all out, you can go ahead, lift and remove the upper shroud. You can go ahead and lift up the lower section of our shroud. On the bottom side, we have a little drain hose. We're just going to open up this clip, pop this hose off. Just going to use a small pick, pop that open. And this is our hose to our upper portion of the radiator. Go ahead and pop this out. There's another hose clamp right here. It's hiding on us underneath. Pop that open. Using a 13mm socket, I'm going to go ahead and loosen these 3 bolts. Using our 3/8 ratchet on our tensioner, we're going to go ahead and loosen this. Slide the belt off, and then we'll release that tensioner. We're going to remove our 3/8 ratchet from the front of the tensioner. There's a little port right here on the front, little rectangle spot for that ratchet to go. We'll go ahead and remove our belt. Now we can go ahead and pull our belt up a little bit. I'm just going to tuck this up and around our intake like that. And slide our belt off to the side like so. Then we'll go ahead and finish removing these 3 bolts. Now this pulley will come loose, so be prepared to catch that. Now to identify where the bolt location is, we're going to be able to get to these 2 lower ones first, and then the 2 uppers a little bit tucked up underneath. So you might not be able to see those, but we're going to get those last and zip those right out. You want to make sure you have a catch can underneath the water pump. Even though we drain the radiator, there will still be coolant in the engine, so you want to make sure you can catch that. Maybe have some towels or rags underneath as well. Let's go and just tap our water pump here. Now you want to go ahead and find the original gasket. Ours is stuck to the engine itself and is coming off in pieces here. I'm going to peel off what we can, and then we'll come back and we'll clean off the area. So we have a nice new mating surface for our new gasket. Now we're going to go ahead and use a regular razor blade. This engine is a cast iron block, so we can go ahead and use our razor blade and gently scrape away at the gasket. If you have an aluminum engine, you do not want to use a razor blade. Once we get all the gasket off that we can, we're going to go ahead and use a solvent. We'll clean the metal, and then we'll get ready to install our new water pump and gasket. Now we're just going to use our mirror to look up inside. Make sure that all of our surface is clean, and it is not. So we're going to get back up in there and finish cleaning off the old gasket. Now we have our water pump here, and we're just going to put a couple tiny dabs of RTV here. The reason for this is to strictly hold our gasket in place when we go to line this up. Now let's go ahead and line this up on the engine and get our bolt started. And go ahead and line this up. Get one of our bolts started there. Then we're going to get all 4 of these bolts started by hand, and then we'll come back and we'll snug those down, tighten them down properly. Let's go ahead and torque these bolts down to 18 foot-pounds. Let's go ahead and line up our water pump pulley. And you want these to be good and tight. We're going to go ahead and zip them down with our impact gun. Let's go ahead and route our belt. Go ahead and position our ratchet on here. Bring up on our tensioner. Get our belt lined up and slowly release that tensioner. Now we're going to go ahead and install our lower radiator shroud. There's going to be little tabs like this on either side, and you want to go ahead and put those into the tabs on the lower portion of our radiator. Let's go ahead and feed our lower shroud in around the fan. And before we lock that in, I'm going to go ahead and grab our expansion tank hose, and this lines up and clips into the bottom here. Go ahead and get our hose lined up here, making sure that we have enough room to run our hose up to the radiator. And work our shroud down into place. We can go ahead and lower our upper shroud down. On our upper shroud, I'm going to loosely put in our 3 bolts across the top. I'm going to go ahead and mate up the lower shroud to our upper shroud. There's a pin on the lower portion of our upper shroud. We want to just kind of lift that up a little bit. Line up that pin, and then we'll install our forward mounting bolt there. Get that started a few threads right here. Now you would normally have a rearward one here closer to the engine. Ours is broken, so if you happen to have yours still and it's intact, you can install that bolt now. Simply want to repeat the process for the other side. Ours, once again, is broken on the back side. We can still line up and bolt up the front bolt here. Get that started a few threads. Now let's go through and snug them all down. I'm going to go ahead and install our upper intake plenum right here. And press our little grommets down onto our upper radiator studs right here. Then I want to go ahead and bring our intake tube up and slide that on. Now we can go ahead and install our expansion tank hose and slide our retainer clip over and just press it on to lock it in place. Now these tabs right here fit into a track on the radiator support. So you want to bring that down, line this up, slide it down nice and even. Next we can install our intake tube here. Let's go ahead and tighten these down. Install your harness connector to the intake sensor. Let's go ahead and fill our radiator. You want to make sure when filling your radiator that you use the manufacturer specified coolant for your vehicle. When doing so, you want to wear safety glasses as well. That way you don't have any splashback getting in your eyes. Now you also want to go ahead and check your coolant reservoir or expansion tank. There's going to be an add and a full when hot. Obviously the vehicle is not hot because we haven't run it yet. So you at least want to go ahead and fill this up to the add line, and then we're going to go ahead and start up the vehicle, let it run for about 20 to 30 minutes, let all the air bubbles come out. At that point there, check this and see this should be at the full when hot. If not, you can go ahead and open this up slowly and add coolant as necessary. We are currently low on coolant right there, so we're going to go ahead and add a little bit. Now we'll go ahead and let the vehicle run for a little bit. Our radiator did not take any more coolant, and our expansion tank is still in that full area there. It went up to the full hot. So let's go ahead and cap this here. I'll go ahead and work this off. We now can go ahead and install our radiator cap.